So I have my fabric here, and this fabric is 28 into 2 places. The width of the fabric is 28 into 2 places. So this means that what I did was I got the measurement of my waist and I multiplied that measurement by 2. So what you want to do is just try to measure around the waist of the person, and then you can, depending on how full you want your gathers to be, multiply that waist measurement by 2 or by 3 or by 4. The more you multiply, the more or the fuller your gathers would be. But mine is just for the practice of this, so I'm just using my waist measurement times 2. So this is the width of the skirt. So what you now have to do is then get the length of the skirt as well. So the length is, I'm using, is a short skirt, and so I'm using 21. Okay, so the actual length is 21, but I'm not going to cut out 21. I'm going to use add a sewing allowance of 2 inches. Now 1 inch is going to be for my elastic casing. Sorry, I'm going to use add a sewing allowance of 3 inches. So 2 inches is my allowance for my elastic casing, and then 1 inch is for my folding allowance at the hem. So instead of measuring 21, I'm going to add 3 more inches for my sewing allowance, and that would be 24. So I'm going to mark 24. From one end of the skirt to the other end. Okay. I'm going to use my ruler to just draw a straight line so I can know where to cut my skirt from. So I'll go ahead to cut. Keep this aside. So this is what I'm going to be using for my gathered skirt. So once you have this, what you're going to do next is, on the wrong side of your fabric, make sure to create your casing for your elastic. I'm going to be using a 1 inch elastic. A 1 inch elastic for my skirt, and so that would require me creating a casing of 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is use my tape measure or my ruler and then measure 1.5 all the way across to the end of the width of my fabric. I'm going to measure 1.5 because I'll be folding in 1/2 inch inside so that I can stitch on it afterwards. Okay, so this is 1.5. Make sure that you measure it all the way across your measure your width, the width of your skirt, or the waistline of your skirt. So this is the waistline. So I'm just going to use my tape measure to measure 1.5 all the way. That's exactly what I'm doing, from one end of the waistline to the other end, while I use my pin to stabilize the fabric. That's the 1.5 measurement that I have folded. So that's what I'm just trying to do with my tape, measuring tape. So as I measure, I use my pin to hold it down, so that is the exact measurement that I want seen on that part of my garment. So that's just what I'm doing. That's what you should do from one end of the fabric of the waistline to the other end of the waistline. Okay, so I've used my pin to pin down the 1.5 inch allowance for my casing. What I'm going to do next is just use my iron to press it down. This would help me create the mark. This will help me create the mark for my elastic. So the other thing I'm also going to do is ensure that I fold in 1/2 inch inside. So I will just use my chalk or my marker or whatever it is to fold in 1/2 inch all the way across to the other side of my waist. Okay, so I'm basically just trying to create a fold so that I can stitch right on this part. So this chalk that I have, this marking that I have created would help me, will guide me to fold it right will guide me to fold in exactly 1/2 inch. Okay, so once I have gotten that, I will also use my iron to press it down as well. Now the reason why I'm doing all of this is so that I would easily be able to stitch on this part of the garment, this folded part. Okay, but if you do not have an iron, or if you don't have light, it's okay, you can just use your pins to do that. But if you have light, if you have power, it's much better to use your iron to press it downwards. It just creates a neater finish for your garment. Okay.